You are live on Bailrig FM and LA1 TV. Please do not swear. Welcome to LUSU Hustings 2013. Yeah, woo! We are your hosts for the day. I'm Libby Martin, LUSU Vice President for Events and Democracy.
I'm Laurie, Elections CCO.
For everybody in the audience, if you go to LA1 TV on the website, you can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down for candidates for things that they say. This is just for a bit of fun, so candidates don't worry, and audience, enjoy yourself. You can tweet questions and comments to #LUSUelections. Laurie and I will be taking sensible questions from Twitter as and when necessary. Just to know, obviously, please respect the candidates when they're talking, and if you could all turn your phones or any other devices onto silent, that would be great. To all candidates, I will be giving you a 1-minute warning, a 30-second warning, and then we'll be telling you to stop. And I think that's it. Candidates will be husting in alphabetical order based on their first name, so if you want to figure out when you'll be going up. And we are starting off the day with a hust from Ron. Woo! Take it away, Ron.
Laurie, your password needs to be in. Excellent. Hi, I'm Ron and I'll be running for every position because I'm that good. However, I'm not too pushy with my campaigning. I only want your vote if you don't like the rest of my competing candidates. If you do decide to vote for me, number one, you are essentially saying that you would rather see the nominations reopen for the position in question than elect one of the candidates, as you feel they may not be suitable or good enough for the role in question. However, you don't have to vote me number one. Due to the fabulous STV system we use, you can rank me wherever you see fit among the candidate list. Essentially, if you rank me lower than one candidate but above other candidates, you are saying, I want candidate A to win, but failing that, I want to reopen the position to more nominations. I feel that would be better than electing the other candidates B, C, and D. I never do very well in elections. I like to keep trying, though, to give people the choice. So if you believe I could be your one and only option when voting, please consider voting to reopen nominations.
Thank you very much, Ron. Could we now have all the NUS delegates up on the stage, please, if you'd just like to take a seat. To note, everyone, Rizwan obviously isn't here, and Sam Hale is stuck in Preston on the train. So Laurie will be reading out Sam's hust at the end. So first up, I'd like to invite Charlie Edwards to do his hust up on there. Charlie, you have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Firstly, I'd just like to say good luck to all my fellow candidates and good luck to you out there. It's going to be a very long day, so enjoy it. Basically, I'm here to ask for your vote to be your delegate for NUS conference. It'd be an incredible honour, and I'm going to just point out just a couple of reasons why I'd like that honour. I have been involved in student union politics and national politics since long before I started here at Lancaster University. And I've continued to do so in terms of working on my JCR and in terms of working with the student media as well since then. In terms of my political experience, I've actually been to a few NUS conference, NUS demonstrations before. And one of the things I would pick up upon is that I would like to sort of use my opportunity as a conference delegate to actually feed back my comments, which I think would be for NUS demonstrations, is that I don't think they get enough coverage, I don't think they get enough support, and I don't think activists get enough training. And that's, I think, something that we are going to be pushing for as Lancaster University in this conference in terms of one of the amendments that we're putting forward, which I hopefully get the opportunity to support and debate and push through. I think that previous NUS delegates that I've been in contact with or I've heard about, I think a lot of the time they do want to fight for Lancaster University, but they want to fight against the NUS, and that is completely the wrong attitude. If we're going to do this, we've got to do this right. We've got to fight for what we believe in, but we've got to be working with our representatives on a national level and, of course, on a regional level as well. And that's something that I would offer to the role in terms of an element of diplomacy and tact, which I think is something that if we really want to achieve any sort of goals and achievements from NUS conference and from our role within student politics, I think that's something that is necessary and required. In terms of feeding back, I think that one of the most important aspects really of conference is none of us really know what's going on before, during or after. Obviously I will be a professional representative during the conference, but it is before and after that I think we really need to focus on. I want to have innovative ways for us to actually feed back what's been said during a NUS conference, what's going to be done in the future, and actually something that it's not just a thing for union representatives, union councillors, things like that. I think it's something that every single student needs to know exactly what's going on. I want to be going into lectures. I want to be actually finding ways, new and innovative ways to actually say, this is what your NUS are doing, this is what our money's going towards. And that's pretty much all I can do. A lot of the candidates will say something similar. The difference between me is the fact that I will do this because I'm so proud to be a Lancaster University student, and I will represent our university with passion and with pride. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Now I'd like to invite Laurence Pullan up on the stage. You have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Laurence Pullan, running to be one of your delegates for this upcoming annual NUS conference. Now, I've got experience in the union. I was Pendle College president, and I'm currently cross-campus officer for socials. On a personal level, I've always done my best to participate in the decision-making process and represent students to the best of my ability. I sit on LUSU Council, and I've also sat on LUSU Executive, and I always voice my opinions for what I believe is for the better of the union. As social CCO, I put forward new policy that had never been properly developed and discussed before. I saw that there was a need or an expectation in the union for policy on LUSU organised nights out, and I worked with other officers to create policy on sober duty, which was then passed in LUSU Council. In November, I was selected to represent Lancaster students at the NUS Union Development Zone Conference in Manchester, and here I was exposed to new ideas and new ways of thinking to try and improve democratic input from the student body, from the everyday student. It also provided me with an opportunity to network and bring new and original ideas back to Lancaster, along with a new way of thinking. I've also worked latterly with the current LUSU President, Steve Smith, to make amendments to policy about student activism, which stemmed from the UD Zone Conference that I attended in November. So if I was elected, I'd continue to focus my passion for union development by developing networks and sharing best practice with delegates from other unions. I'd listen to reasoned debates surrounding policy proposals and make the right decision based on what I believe would be for the benefit of Lancaster students. And hopefully I'd be trusted to help select the right candidates to be leading officers of the NUS by engaging in the campaign process and holding them to account. So if you believe that I can represent you, like I think I can represent you,
1 minute left.
then vote Laurence Pullan, number 1 for NUS Delegate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurence. I'd like to invite Michael Palmer up on stage now. You have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Okay. Right. Hi guys, I'm Michael Palmer and I'm running to represent you as one of your delegates at this year's NUS National Conference. I'm a second year biomedicine student and I'm currently one of your active representatives on the LUSU trustee board, along with being snowboard captain for Lancaster University Snow Sports. My interest in conference became clear last year when I, quite sadly, sat and watched the full conference live stream, keeping in touch with all the delegates about policies and elections throughout the duration of it. And I feel this puts me in a position to represent Lancaster students and ensure that the right decision is made on their behalf. As a delegate for Lancaster, I will have the job alongside other delegates to debate, decide whether to accept policy recommendations for the 5 zone committees, as well as any amendments and new motions that the union submits. For example, supporting Students' Union to campaign for fees to be fixed over the course of a study for part-time and international students, ending the unjustifiable practice of mid-course fee hikes. One of the zones is welfare. The NUS resolves to support students' unions fighting cuts on welfare units on campus, something that directly affects Lancaster University students, and I can support that directly at conference. I propose that each delegate reviews a proposal for a primary discussion, and then we split them between us, a zone or two each. Take them students to gain their opinion to the rest of the Lancaster University population, student opinion. And this could be questioning Alex Ware by using your voice or any other forms of e-democracy. It's engage students in contentious policy, and I think this is important because these issues, we need the opinions on issues going forward to conference. But I will focus on consulting students in areas where LUSU doesn't have clear policy already. For example, LUSU already has policy on equal marriage, sensible drinking, gender-neutral toilets, international student fees. We need to get an opinion on every other policy that LUSU doesn't already have policy on. I'll be expecting and willing to elect the new NUS officers and hold current officers in the NUS to account on work that they have done over the past year. This is not unfamiliar territory for me, because I regularly scrutinise the work of full-time officers as a student trustee on the trustee board. I want Lancaster students to feel like they are there with us. Live updates will be tweeted back to the students. A full report to LUSU Council will return, and a roundup article in Scan. I am an active member of the union, making full use of its facilities, giving me a broad insight into all areas of LUSU, and I've gained insights and knowledge into the ins and outs of how the Students' Union works. I feel this puts me in a prime position to represent your student union, so if you agree with me, then please vote Michael Palmer, number 1, for NUS Delegate.
Thank you very much. If we could now ask Richard Clark to take the stand. Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Richard Clark. I'm going to be running for one of your delegates for NUS conference, in case you didn't know. I want to talk to you about a couple of things. One, I want to briefly talk about my experience. I also want to talk about the things that I plan to do if I get the position, but I also want to talk to you about my passion. So, to start off with my experience, I've been involved in the JCR system for the last 2 years, and then last 2 years of my degree. I was on Pendle JCR, and then, of course, I'm now one of your full-time officers for Vice President Academic. I think that it's really important that we get people like myself who are in positions of representation, like a lot of our other candidates here today, to go to conference, because I feel like we have a lot of... the point of going to conference is to be able to represent, and I think that being a part of my role is about being representative, and I hope to do that as best as I can at conference. I've also attended a lot of other NUS sort of conferences, and I feel like I've got a good knowledge of the sort of networking ideas and the way that they talk, which gives me a good idea of how the conference is going to run. I've never actually been to conference before, and this would be my first year, and I think it'd be really important to go. However, at this point, I'm going to sort of flip it on its head, and I'm also going to talk about how vital important it is that we get students to go. And I think it's absolutely fantastic that the other 5 candidates, so 2 of them unfortunately aren't here, are all students. I think that that's absolutely vital that we get some student representatives to go who are, current students at the time. So I really wish them the best of luck going forward. In terms of my passion, I really enjoy the NUS because I'm a kind of an oddball, really. A lot of the NUS people sort of really engage and really love what the NUS do, and I do as well. But I come at it from a much different angle of I'm a bit sceptical in a way, and I think that really helps at things like conference, because you can take the emotions that are taken forward from there and really scrutinise them and do the best that do the best that you can with them, which is what I really want to do going forward. Finally, my promises. There's just a couple, and I think, again, they've already been mentioned, but I really want to make sure that the things that are going into conference and the things that are coming out of conference are well known and well publicised to everybody else, so that to make sure that the students know what we're going to conference for and what we come back with. I imagine that there will be something going to LUSU Council as well, and things like that, and I think it's really important that we get as widespread opinion of what has happened at conference going forward. The next sort of 2 weeks of term, if I get elected, will be really, really manic of me trying to make sure that you guys understand and know about all of the things that are going on at conference, so that you're fully prepared when we go and what we're going to be bringing back. Thank you very much. Vote for me.
Thank you very much. Laurie's now going to read out Sam Hale's speech.
Hello all. Apologies for missing the NUS Hustings. I'm currently stuck on a broken train in the delightful Preston. I only have 2 promises for this election. Firstly, I will work to ensure that as your NUS delegate, I am properly mandated by the union to ensure that national policy debated is relevant to us in Lancaster. Secondly, I'll be voting for Sam Gowes, the nominated bearer of the inanimate carbon rod for NUS President. For those who haven't heard of the In Rod We Trust campaign, I suggest you Google it to find out more. It's essentially a protest vote at how for 3 years the NUS President has attacked peaceful student protesters, refused to support the 2010 protests when students needed it most, and for telling the government it was fine to cut student bursaries. LUSU pays a lot of money to be part of the NUS, and I believe we need a strong delegate to ensure we get the best from National Conference. Thanks.
Right, okay, we're now going to be taking questions for delegates from the floor. Can I just ask, if you have got a question, if you put your hand high in the air and don't start speaking until somebody's given you a microphone for the purposes of LA1 TV and Bell Rig. Thank you. So, does anybody have any questions? Right, we'll go Becky first and then Steve. Have we got a microphone?
It's on.
Becky then.
Hello? If you're going to be an NUS delegate, it means that you have to represent the views of the students. So how will you make a compromise between your own views and that of the general student population to represent them properly?
Okay, candidates, you each have 1 minute to answer that question, and we're going to go with Richard first.
Okay. I think that trying to speak to 12,000 students is nigh on impossible, but I think that's where you have to sort of have a basis and try to start. So I think you've got to, look at social media, try to speak to as many people in person as possible, as well as taking it to things such as like academic council and other places where you can get a broader view of what some students might think. I think there is also a separate part of this, which is also about being not just a student representative, but also a student voice. And I think that by representing me, you are also entrusting that my views and the views that I've expressed during my hust are going to be worthwhile for you guys to let me run on. Like I said, speaking to 12,000 students is impossible, so my opinion will have to come into it at some point. I think that there's a definite balance there that needs to be had.
Thank you. Laurence?
Yeah. Becky, am I right in saying that your question was more saying, how will you make sure that your personal opinion doesn't affect what you think might be best for the students of Lancaster? Okay, right. Like Richard said, you'd go to your student officers first and foremost for them to try and gauge opinion for the wider student body. Utilise your democracy, utilise your voice, which at the moment isn't actually utilised all that well. And inevitably, if I'm running to be an NUS delegate because I think I can represent the views of the students of Lancaster very well. I think I'm pretty well informed in terms of how this union works and operates. And I'd like to think that if I was elected to go, I'd be able to represent student opinion, because that's what I've been doing in an officer capacity for Pendle College for the last 2 years, what I've been doing on a cross-campus officer level. So I think I'd like to sort of almost have a natural progression and just, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
Hi. I'm going to take it more of the not getting my views mixed up with student views sort of side of it. So as a student trustee, I'm very used to being the impartial, not pushing my views too much if they're not the same as the whole student population's views. So as people are generally saying now, and I said in the speech, is utilising your voice, your democracy, stand in Alex Square and just ask people what their opinions is. And then if their opinion is generally different to my opinion, that's the opinion of the student union, so that's what we're going to go forward with at conference. There's not really much more I can say to that, but I'm used to not mixing my opinion with general opinion anyway, so it's how I go forward.
Thank you. And finally, Charlie.
Becky, there is a compromise. I've had to compromise my views and my personal views and what actually we need to sort of come out with. When it comes to NUS conference, you can't just be peppered and nailed down into your own sort of one single track mind. That's something that I touched on in my speech, is the fact that I think that we have had representatives in the past who might necessarily have been there to represent a constituency of one rather than a constituency of 12,000. That's something that I think it is just through innovative ideas, getting as much feedback as possible before, during and after conference. But it is a compromise, and it's hard. I'm one of the most unpopular members on Union Council because of just how seriously I take it. And I love Union Council, and it's because I am a representative of as many students as possible.
10 seconds.
And it's a role that I don't take lightly.
Okay, thank you. Steve, your question, please.
Hi guys. First of all, just a plea from Twitter. Just make sure when you're all speaking that you're close enough to the microphone and that you project your voice and you don't bang on the table when you're answering questions, because that reflects on the sound. I think it's very unfortunate that Sam isn't here to answer why he's voting for a joke candidate, because I personally believe that the leadership of our National Union of Students is extremely important, especially in the run-up to 2015 and the general election. So I'd like to know, who would you be supporting to be your next national NUS president?
We'll take that first to Charlie, please.
Firstly, I dispute what you're saying about the fact that it's really important for the 2015 general election, in the fact that I don't really see party politics being the true driver of the NUS, and I think that when that is the case, I think not enough gets done by any of us. And I think that party politics is something that we personally should be getting rid of. I actually met most of the NUS exec by fluke. I used to work for the conference centre. The guys at the back, behind the bar and stuff, members of facilities and stuff, will know exactly what it's like, so I feel your pain today. But basically, when I met them, I felt that they weren't particularly well engaged, and I think that the two ladies who are running for the job, Vicky and Kelly, who are, I think, quite... they're too much part of the system. I would go for the third candidate, a guy called Peter Smallwood, who I've known for a long time, as I say, through student union politics and just through general national politics. He's someone that I will be supporting in a personal capacity, but then it all goes down to the hust and feedback from students.
Can we go to Michael next?
As Becky said in her last question, it's not necessarily my own opinion, it's personal opinion. It's the opinion of the Students' Union. That's why we're going to go and represent. We're there to represent the students of Lancaster University Students' Union. So I think it's more to do with going and asking out their opinion in Alex Square, find out what different students feel about the different candidates, and then taking that opinion forward as my vote for the conference this year.
Okay, thank you. And can we now go to Laurence, please?
Yeah, like Michael said, it is important to gauge student opinion. Personally, I've only ever met Vicky Bars at the Union Development Zone Conference. I thought she was impressive. She was, I think she was behind the Out in Sport campaign, which I was quite impressed with, the fact that we need to help LGBTQ members that are in sports and societies and stuff feel comfortable that they can come out and not feel pressurised by, you know, what sometimes can be quite an intense environment. She impressed me. I don't actually know enough about Tony Pierce or Peter Smallwood to comment. I'm going to have to do my research, basically. But what I saw from Vicky Bars, I was impressed with. So I think at the moment she'd get my vote, but I'd need to do more research on the other candidates.
Okay, thank you. And then finally to Richard, please.
Again, similar to Laurence, I don't know enough about the candidates to make a decision now. But speaking from what I've met of them personally and the stuff that they've done, I would personally at the moment be voting for Tony Pierce. I think that she's done a lot of work in the FE system, which has been absolutely brilliant. She's developed the further education system a lot. And so far, I think I'll be voting for Tony. I don't know enough about Peter, so I think that'll be a really interesting candidate to look at for the hust and to look at if I get mandated to go.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions? Was that a follow-up question? Yeah, Steve?
Yeah, I personally will be voting for Tony Pierce as well. I think she's a better candidate. And my question is follow-up to Charlie, but I think all candidates may have something to say on this, so feel free to add to it if you want to. You said that I was focusing on party politics. I don't believe it's about party politics. I believe that our national government has a large role to play in what happens and what goes forward to HE policy, FE policy, the welfare of students, etc., etc. Do you not think that it's important that for the general election in 2015 that we're fighting for students nationally?
Without a shadow of a doubt, I think that it is important that the focus is always on having a group of officers representing us as students, NUS officers, who actually will be able to work with the government regardless of the partisanship of it. And I respect the fact that, you know, I don't think you were quite sort of implying, you know, any sort of partisanship to it. I think that at the end of the day, you've got to have a sort of a professional outlook, I think, to who the candidates are, and that's something that I think the national politics will. All I can say is, I'm sorry, you've caught me.
10 seconds.
Sorry, is just to say that, of course, national politics will matter, and it will come down to who actually can provide the best alternative from the previous exec in the husts, and that's something that I'll be looking for.
That's time. Do any of the other candidates want to answer that question? No? Any other questions from the floor? Steve?
Well, somebody has to question the candidates, don't they? Charlie, again, sorry. I liked your mention of diplomacy and tact within the NUS, and I do believe that sometimes people go out there to fight against the NUS rather than work with them. And this year we've been involved in having an engagement strategy, myself and Rosalie are working with all other officers, to make sure that we are working in collaboration. I think that's really important. One thing you then went on to mention was about how we actually feed back what we've done and what we've won, I suppose, for students while we're at conference and what we're engaging with. How do all candidates think they're going to feed that back to students?
Right, can we take that to Michael first, please?
Repeat the last bit of it again. How are we going to feed back?
Basically, how are you going to communicate to students what's going on at conference, what you've done, what you've voted for, etc., etc.?
Right, okay. So it's constant updates with Twitter, Facebook, set up Facebook groups or pages before we go so people can like it run up to the conference. Constantly update them with that. And as I said in the speech as well, when we get back, report it to LUSU Council and in SCAN. And there's not, and just constantly update them on every single thing that happens whilst going, tweeting like you're mad, sort of thing.
Okay, thank you. Charlie?
I think, yes, in terms of the standard stuff we do, LUSU Council, SCAN, using other student medias, that's fine. But that, I think, engages a select part of the student body, and I think we should really, maybe be looking a little bit wider, maybe going to societies, maybe going to JCR meetings, just doing college sessions in colleges, maybe, I don't know, some form of NUS conference delegate roadshow, if you fancy, guys, where we go into each of the college bars or into college spaces and actually go through what we're sort of looking at. It will be a case of finding innovative ways to do that, and I think expanding the usual, expanding what we normally do, and doing it fairly and doing it consistently, I think, is all we can ask for, really. That's something I'll do.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
It's a bit early to be asking the dreaded how will you communicate question. I think it's something that we have been trying to answer ever since we started LUSU, and particularly this year. I know we've really fought as an FTO team to try and address the fact that we have 12,000 students and yet we do not reach, even a tenth of that sometimes. I think it's really important that we do all the generic sort of stuff that we are doing, the Twitter and the LUSU Council, and trying to get all of those people engaged, because they are the ones in particular that do enjoy these kind of things. I think that we need to draw a fine line between trying to engage all students and throwing it down their throats, because I think that we have to respect that actually quite a lot of students here don't give a crap about what comes about it, which is unfortunate, and that's part of our job to try and improve. But I think we need to be able to find a sort of elusive way of getting across to students who might not want to read a boring, what might seem like a boring newsletter from the NUS kind of thing, but find a way of making it interesting for the generic student who might not be fully engaged in LUSU. I think it's a very difficult one to answer, and I think that's the best I can give you at the time.
Thank you. And finally, Laurence.
Yeah, my response is maybe, well, it's not necessarily radical, but what I do is try and mobilise our student officers. They should be more political. They should be aware that they can be political animals, if you will. and we should be able to, you know, tell them what's happening in terms of student politics on a national level, and try and get them to make, you know, take an interest in it, because then it's easier for our student officers to then relay information onto the average student. Not every student is going to be interested in it, obviously, but I think as student officers, we should be aware that we should be political and making everyone aware of what's going on, not just in our union and university, but nationally too.
Thank you very much. Steve has one more question. Oh, and Lizzie's got a question as well. Interesting. Lizzie. Lizzie is the winner.
Right, following up slightly from Steve and Becky's questions, you've all said how you want to represent the views of students when you when you attend conference. Given the fact that actually most students probably don't care that much what goes on at NUS conference, one, how would you make them care? Two, do you think actually that you should be representing the views of an uninformed or ill-informed general population of students, or should you as delegates be taking your informed positions and making informed choices based on your own views?
Thank you very much. We'll go to Laurence first, please.
Okay. Right.
Claps for Lizzie. Laurence.
On that, I take your point, Lizzie. You're right. There are many students that probably don't take an interest in this sort of, you know, national student politics. There are those that do, though, and they will be heard. They'll make sure that they're heard. And I think it's most important to take their views into account. You know, the ones that are switched on, the ones that have ideas, the ones that want to make a difference. It's important to get in touch with those, you know, that want to make the effort. We can make the effort to try and speak to all our students, but it does need to be reciprocated in a sense. And those students that feed back to us are the ones that we should, you know, consider most highly in terms of representing.
Thank you. Richard?
I think it's about finding the sort of value in the smaller number. I mean, we talk about 12,000 students, but actually, when we look at it, we've got roughly about 180 or so officers. We've got 250 to 300 department reps, and these people are engaged, and so we've got to look at these smaller numbers and particularly try and find wins within those numbers. So if we're looking at sort of 500 people that are truly engaged students, as the terminology kind of states, if we can get a large percentage of those people to really get informed and feedback, then that's a big win. We don't need to be going there with the views, you know, with every single 12,000 individual views, because one, that's impossible, and two, like you said, a lot of them will be ill-informed or uninformed. I think that trying to find the value in the small number is much more important than trying to find the value in the larger number. In terms of going with my own personal informed view, I think that's exactly what I talked about with the balance. You need to be able to go there knowing, you know, that some things that people have said are incorrect or the wrong way of going about it, and finding the balance.
Thank you. If we can now go to Charlie, please.
You say people aren't engaged. They might not be engaged in the motion to do with, say, I don't know, say transgender toilets, but we all go to the learning zone, and we all use things like that. We all pick up our student loans and stuff like that. Like these are things that we should, although not necessarily from a political way, are engaged in as a general student. People just use these things. At the end of the day, we are all students, and first and foremost, and I think that sometimes gets forgotten in the quagmire of the constitutionalisation and democracy and politicisation of actually what it is we're trying to achieve. Pointing out the things that are relevant is basically the only way we can truly feed back to people, is actually what is relevant to us, and those are the sort of arguments that I think we should be bringing to the students.
Thank you. And finally, Michael.
I think it's a difficult question to answer, because engaging students who don't really want to shout out has always been a problem, will always be a problem, because people just don't want to talk about it a lot of the time. But grinding down and finding, as Charlie said, the relevant issues that people, every student has with them, and then finding the way between the three of us to work it out is exactly what we need to do. But the point about going to a conference with ill-represented opinions, it's difficult, because you're always going to get those opinions, but we can't not go. We have to go and give the opinions that we personally and the Students' Union have given us. So we still need to go and represent those views for Lancaster University Students' Union, but I mean, we'll
10
try and get
seconds.
different ways to grind down and get the opinions of people who don't normally talk up, utilising officers and everything, but thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Steve, do you still want to ask your question? Yep. This will probably be the last question unless anybody else has anything to ask. Oh, Liz as well, okay.
Sorry, guys. As you all know, I work very, very closely with Richard, and in Richard's speech, he talked about having passion. And I would just like to ask that if he was that passionate about it, why didn't he submit a manifesto like all the other candidates?
Right, that's just a question for Richard then, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I haven't written a manifesto because I don't want to. At the time of writing the manifesto, I didn't really have, and I still don't really have a full idea of what I will be doing going to conference, because a lot of going to conference is about gathering opinion. Also, I think that the manifesto for an NUS delegate is extremely difficult to write because it's quite a generic thing you end up writing. You know, you talk about. You know, like the fact that all of our speeches were all fairly similar shows that this position is really difficult to have different opinions on. You go there to a conference to represent the student body, should we say, and so the manifesto that I would have put together would have been one that might have ticked some boxes in terms of buzzwords, but I don't think it really gets down to what the nitty-gritty of the position is, and that's actually something that you rarely find out until you've got into the position and you can fully read the papers and find out exactly what's going on there.
10 seconds. Oh. Okay, thank you. Liz, final question.
Hi everyone. Wow, loud. I just wanted to ask the final question. Obviously, I don't think it's been asked before. Obviously, as you all know, you won't be going alone if elected to the NUS conference. And I just wanted to know, based on the qualities and things that you're displaying here and saying reasons for why you're running and what you think you would bring back to the students, who you would like to see going there with you if you were elected and why.
Right, if we could go with Richard first, please.
I don't really mind, to be honest. I think that all the candidates, particularly the ones that are sat here who I've managed to hear them speak at Hustings, would all do a fantastic job. Sometimes, most of them, if not probably all of them, better than me. I think they're all really strong candidates. I think it's not so much important about who I think should be going with me or who should do the best role, because actually the role is interpreted in some way, or in most of the way, by the students themselves. So I think that anybody who gets a job would be doing the best job that they could be doing going forward. So I think anybody would be absolutely fine with me. They're all my friends. Yay.
Laurence?
I couldn't choose 2 out of the 3, but I'd definitely pick Michael Palmer, because he's actually the only one that's actively gone out and campaigned and posted and made a Facebook page, had his manifesto up online before the rest of us, stuff like that. So actually, in terms of raw passion and determination for going to this conference, you know, you've got to vote him. That's all I'd say.
Thanks.
Thank you. Michael?
As Richard said, everyone who's elected himself, especially 4 of us that have turned up, is, from what I've heard, has seemed very suitable for the role, but it's difficult to choose between as who I would want to go. But from what I've heard so far, personally, I'd pick the 2 lads either side of me.
Thank you. And finally, Charlie.
That just shocked me, sorry. I think, as has been said before, any of the lads here, I'd agree actually with the Michael point. I didn't watch any of last year's NUS conference live. I read about it in newspapers and I read about it on the website, but no, I didn't take any time out of my life to watch it. So, to be honest, to be able to put up with that, fair play to you, Michael. Obviously, we'll be taking Steve, Rosalia and Lizzie as well, and I think they're obviously very important that we've got a good mix, a good balance of experience and passion. And I think altogether, I think we can make a fairly good team. I'm very, very looking forward to working together with these lads. And ladies.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, that's going to conclude our NUS Delegate Hustings. So thank you very much. We can have a round of applause for them, please.